No.
Okay,
No,
yeah,
no,
that's a
no,
scary story.
no. And then there was another bread truck that went to Gas Monkey.
We're here today with Dave from the Auto Archeologist, and I was just saying, he sent me a bunch of pictures of vehicles, which we're gonna overlay here, and I got overwhelmed because every vehicle you sent, I want. You know, it's like the first ones you sent were like, I think it was an old truck. Oh, this one I actually want to. I had a note. I want to ask you about it because I think I want to buy that one. That old bread truck.
Oh, that was gone.
Oh man.
That was a long time ago.
Oh, was it?
That's the greatest story ever told.
It's
and I'll tell you that story later.
Okay, excellent, excellent. Well, hopefully it's not the one. It's not the one that was in Colchester, right?
No.
Okay,
No,
yeah,
no,
that's a
no,
scary story.
no.
But-
And then there was another bread truck that went to Gas Monkey.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I sold it was in their top 10 builds of all time. The black lowered
yeah.
panel van or whatever.
Oh
you
wow,
know.
that's pretty cool. Huh? I didn't know
So
that.
that was local in Middletown as well. I
Oh
found
wow.
that one. And
Oh, very cool.
yeah, but that's another story.
So now, okay. Well, can we start like what got you? And so, well, first I guess you could tell what the Auto Archaeologist is, but then like how you got started, and I mean,
What Auto Archaeologist is in essence an automotive matchmaker. The easy term is I'm a classic car broker.
Yep.
I help people sell their cars. How I got started was when I was 4 years old. I've been a car guy since I was 4.
Nice.
I was in the hospital, and back then, it was something minor. But today you would have been in the hospital for about 18 minutes. Back then, I was in the hospital for a whole week, and the kid next to me, quite a bit older, got injured in a bike accident and was in traction and stuff, but he was good from the waist up, and he was building model cars. And I was like, Dad, I want to do this, what he's doing, And so my dad brought back it was a 280 SL Mercedes.
Yep.
Late 60s era probably, because 69 it would have been 4 or 5 years old, so it was probably in that vicinity.
and you remember it. That's a car guy.
Yeah. Oh,
when I was 4 years old, I remember this Mercedes.
What I really remember, was all the instructions called out every part. It wasn't like the crappy little snap togethers that they have,
That's right. You had to glue them. The kicker.
The starter, the exhaust, all of that was there, and it was named, so you could learn, what you were doing. So
Yeah, they're better.
I really got into building model cars. I still build model cars. I have a shelf full of ones I haven't built yet, and shelves full of ones that I have. And so from that point, I was a car guy. Always into cars. And had my first car. It was a 1970 Duster with a 318 when I was 14 years old. Couldn't even drive it, but I got it. Someone sold it to me for $300, and that was my first car. I got that rolling and running, and then drove that to high school, etc. And so through my entire life, I've always been into cars. So now fast forward a bunch of years, and I work for a company that does fire and water restoration and stuff like that. And my job takes me all over Connecticut, southern New England, and you're a car guy, and everyone out there in Carland, knows when you're driving along, you go, whoa, did you see that Mustang? And your wife or girlfriend or whoever says, what are you talking about?
Yeah, you're like right on it.
It was behind that garage. You didn't see it?
That's so true.
And so as I was driving, I would see these cars and I'd make notes where they are. I'd come home and I just started making a list of old cars and where they were. And my wife said, why just curious, why are you doing that? I don't know.
But what's funny is it's so smart to do that, because every time I see a vehicle and someone says, I'm like, I just saw that vehicle, but you never write it down. And that's brilliant. Yeah.
And so I said, I don't know why, but maybe at some point I'll need it, or someone, like you just said, might need a part or a car or something, or looking for something. I don't know, but it feels good knowing where all these cars are. And 2 years later, I got laid off from that position, had been working there for about 12 years, got laid off, already had plans for another job, but because of, non-competes and stuff like that, we were waiting. I had to wait a year. Yep. So I was on unemployment, and unemployment back then wasn't, what it is like today. And
They
so I
encourage you to go
needed
to
more
work
money
quick.
than
Yeah,
what
yeah.
unemployment it was going to give me. And I said, I got this list of all these cars, and I bet that the people that own those cars, they don't know a thing about the reason those cars are there, probably, is they don't know anything about how to sell them. And I could probably help them. So I took my list, and because I was out of work, I wasn't going to go driving far. I started locally and literally just started knocking on doors and walking up and, hi, my name's Dave. I had no name of the business.
People were
nothing.
pretty open into it and stuff in the beginning.
First 10 people I stopped in, 6 people said, yeah.
That's, what's funny? I have the exact opposite odds. Everyone I go, they're like, no, I'm going to fix this. And I'm like, you probably know, it's funny, you probably know one of the vehicles. One of my good friends growing up is, he lived over by Middlesex Community College, and his cousin, I think it was, had a Mach 1 Mustang sitting on the side of his yard.
Okay.
And it was there probably since it was new.
Right.
And every year we just watch it sink into the dirt, and he's like, I'm going to finish that. And you're like, you're not, but
Yeah.
no one would ever sell them.
And I introduced myself and said, I've seen that car sitting there. I go by it regularly. And would you mind telling me the story? I mean, why do you want it? Well, I'm not in a position to buy it, but if you want to sell it, move it on to a new conservator, I can help. Oh, well, yeah. And car people are car people, and they'll always tell a story. and I heard all sorts of stories about these cars. And so, as my website mentions, it says that archaeology in itself is the study of man's past, and auto archaeology is the study of our cars' pasts. And so, learning the stories, every one of the cars that I post will have a story, the story of that car, whether it's 2, 3 owners, and usually something sort of special about it. I've had cars, that one owner cars, and cars that were used, for 3 different weddings and stuff like that. The guy got married 3 times, and it was the car in each wedding.
And you're the one. You're the one. Yeah.
So the story is the important aspect. I focus on that and then move into all the facts of the car, what it is, the good, the bad, the ugly. Are there dents? Does it run a little rough? Whatever the situation.
Just keep it honest and open.
Yeah, I sell cars literally worldwide, and I have to be. I look at it that my reputation is very important, and I have to be honest. I've had some people say, well, just when you take the picture, don't include the tear on the top of the can.
Yeah. That'll ruin you in a
Someone
heartbeat.
gets it out in Texas, and all of a sudden they see a big tear in it.
Which happens so much in this business.
They're calling me back.
Yep.
So no, can't do that. And I've walked away from a couple, not a lot. And in the last 10 years, I've probably sold close to 500 cars at this point.
Nice.
So yeah, that's where it all started.
That's where it all started. And how long ago was that?
It was 2012 when I got laid off, and I did it for about a year, pushing it, and then it settled into a back seat because I was helping a new business get up and started. I was doing a lot of marketing for them, and so Auto Archeologist was a little bit here and there, but for the first 4 years or so, 5 years, yeah, because I incorporated in 2018.
Okay.
And
right before beautiful COVID.
Yeah. And well, I rode the wave.
It was beautiful.
It was
For
great.
cars, it was amazing in the beginning. Holy cow.
Yeah.
Everybody's home working on their cars, loving it. It's funny because it's like most people hated it, but my wife, we always joke around because it's like she's a homebody and she loved it. And can you imagine just for a couple of years just being in your garage doing what you want and be left alone? You have to go to the store. There's nobody on the roads. It's kind of nice.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
crazy.
And people were, they were looking for ways to get out, and boats and campers, motorcycles, all of that went through the roof. And I sold a lot of cars that, like right now, I've got. It's one of the earliest. It's not a Packard. a Nash.
Okay. Yeah.
And one of the earliest Nashes, the 47, and it's a four-door sedan. It's not a real popular car.
Yeah, it's a historical car though.
For that same fellow, I've sold probably 20 cars from that one person.
Wow.
He's quite a collector, but he does all orphan cars. And we call him the foster father of orphan cars because he brings them in, gets them running, cleaned up, and ready for the road. And sometimes he'll keep them, but 80% of the time he doesn't. He sells them on.
There's a lot of guys who do that, and it's kind of cool because a lot of them pick the oddest cars that you would never care, and that's the ones you forget about. That's the ones you want to see.
Right.
Right. Like the Mustangs are a beautiful car, but you see a lot of them. When you
Right.
start seeing some of the Cougars, you're like, oh, that's right, I forgot about those things.
Yeah,
It's like crazy.
And so this car, right now, it's been sitting a little bit because it's a four-door sedan. It's not popular, even though someone comes up with $6,000, it's out the door.
Yeah, it's a beautiful car to have.
But back during COVID, four doors were selling like hotcakes. People wanted something to do with their families, because as it moved on, you could go out and you could do cruise nights.
Yep, and
And
enjoy
it was
it with your
okay
whole
to
family.
be outside. And so that's, a lot of cars sold during that
It's funny because even like what's weird for me is like growing up, like there's certain generations of cars that you don't look at as desirable. And I remember the same thing. All of a sudden, 70s and 80s four-door cars, I'm like, going, really? And people are they're like, I want that big boat and I want to just cruise around with my family. You're like, wow,
Yeah.
that's pretty cool.
Yep.
Yeah, it's funny. As you're talking, I'm like looking at every car here is just like, I would have to have every one. I could not do your job.
Most of those that I sent you are ones that relate to some of the different stories and stuff like that. Like,
Well, this was the first page I got, and it has Highboy, right, and a Carmagia.
yeah, that's some of the current stuff
Okay.
that I have.
And what's that, a TD Triumph? Like an old Triumph in the background there? The blue one with the lights on it? In the garage?
Oh no, that's a 40 Ford.
Oh, is it really?
Yep. And that car, that car belonged to a moonshiner named Willie.
Like down south, like a
Down
Tennessee
south,
moonshiner?
real
Really?
moonshiner. And he was hired to do some work up here in Connecticut, union type stuff. So he drove up here with the moonshine tank still in the back seat.
It doesn't have it now, though.
No,
Oh,
no,
okay. That's some
so he
history.
drove it up here, was looking for somebody who's making good money doing steel work up here, and went into this garage, and there was a guy working, they owned the garage, had an older Cadillac, and he said, I want that Cadillac. So he bought the Cadillac and gave him the 40 Ford.
Wow.
And that same guy that he gave it to back in probably, let's say, late 50s, early 60s, had it all the way from them. And Willie bought it new down in North Carolina. And, because it was a V8. It was a
a good
great
runner. Yeah,
shine
that was the
runner,
car, yeah.
And so as
that's
the
awesome.
sedan, he had a tank in the back seat, and then had the seat sort of hidden over it.
There was
So
like
you'd look
some
in and
people
you'd
do like
see it,
documentaries on those, and it's cool to see that. It's like it was amazing. It's such a strong culture in the car business and the race business and with NASCAR. It's very cool.
But that's also a sort of indicative of the range of cars that I have. So
Yeah, just this
that's
here.
a total project car. That car, probably sell for $4 or $5 It's underneath. It's a little scaly.
Yep.
But it's solid.
And that's for sale currently.
That's for sale currently. That's one of the cars. I
So
have
this
for sale.
Highboy, the Sprite, and the Carmagia are all current vehicles you're selling?
Yep.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
What are these Carmagias going for now? That looks like a clean car.
That one is a metal worker over in Essex area. It totally went through the car. It was solid to begin with. It was a California car. Came out here, was driven around Essex for a little bit, and then parked. And he saw it sitting on a gravel driveway and just pulled into the driveway and said, what do you want to do with that car? I've seen it sitting there for 2 years. I'm looking for a project. So no issues with the car body-wise whatsoever.
Wow.
He had the engine rebuilt, did welding. Where the bumpers come around, there's a little indentation on those.
Yep.
He got rid of those, made real slimline
So he
steel
tricked out a
bumpers.
little bit. Like
Yeah,
nice.
it sits about 1.5 inches lower. It's a great little
It's like
car.
that lime green is definitely noticeable.
Yeah,
Huh?
and that's original color.
Oh, is it really?
Yep. Not original paint, but it's the original color, Ravenna green.
Oh, wow.
So it's a
I don't remember ever
Porsche
seeing them green.
Volkswagen color.
Yeah, that's beautiful. What a beautiful car.
So
Yeah, what are those things going for now?
probably around. He'll take like 22
Nice.
for it. So
Yeah, try to build a car and buy a car for that.
Right, yeah,
It's crazy.
exactly.
Especially now, people don't understand now when you some of the numbers that come out. People think, oh, 30,000, whatever for a car, and you're like going, if you have to build one and you start buying the parts, it's amazing because like all the small parts have like quadrupled in price. So you're like, oh, a door handle used to be $5, now it's only $25, and then you're like, oh wait,
times 4 is $100.
yeah. We do what throws me off all the time is someone like the pro touring or the builds that we do. We'll have to get suspension bolts and like a grade 8 5/16 bolts, like $29 a piece. And I remember our company that comes in to bring our nuts and bolts in. He brought in three boxes and set them down. He goes, okay, here's your order. Then I look at the bill. I'm like, $900? I'm like, what's in these boxes? So people, when you sit there, you go, they complain about the price. If they actually knew what it took to go into these things, it's insane.
Yeah.
So the bread truck's gone, or milk truck's gone, huh?
Yeah.
I printed this one.
The bread truck. Yeah. Oh, I can tell you the bread truck if you want to hear that.
Oh, just, yeah.
Because that's the greatest story ever told. So that truck, I was contacted by a fellow that runs, I think still to this day, he's probably in his late 70s, but still runs a carpet cleaning business out of North Haven. And he had that truck, used that as a work truck all the way through the late 90s and into the 2000s. And that's, I think, like a 56.
Oh, so it's a newer one. I thought it was a late 40s. Oh.
No, it's about mid 50s Grumman, and with Chevy, running gear, so to speak. Not new Chevy, but back then that's
upgraded.
how they had them set up. And contacts me and says, someone said that you can help me sell this, and I was like, sure. So I went, took a bunch of photos, and that's another thing I do is I'm deep into photos and videos. It's what people need. If you're 3,000 miles away, how else do you know? So I take 300 or 400 photos, all the good, the bad, and the ugly, walk around videos, running videos, etc. So did all that, posted it, and about 2 days later, I get a phone call from a guy, and he says, that's the old such and such carpet cleaning place? I said, yeah. He says, my dad used to work for them. I said, oh, neat, I think that might be the truck that I used to ride around with him in. Can I come and see it? Sure. Set up a time. He gets into we open up the back doors. He climbs into the back of the truck. He starts walking forward, and his dad had passed away a couple of years earlier. He starts bawling. He just starts crying.
It was a truck.
And he was like, I used to sit right there. My dad would drive this. I would sit right there and help him on Saturdays doing deliveries. And I got to have this truck. I got to, how much? And, I said, well, you saw that it was listed at such and such a price. And he said, done. I'll be back in 20 minutes with the cash. And he left in tears,
That's a beautiful story.
So
yeah, it's amazing.
that's, makes it fun.
Yeah.
That kind of stuff.
Yeah, it's fun. Well, it's funny when you sent this picture. Because I have certain vehicles that are my nemesis. Model A pickup, my favorite vehicles. Every time I go to purchase one, something happens. On a handshake, they back out of the deal. And I remember growing up, my dad was like a 52 Ford pickup. And I remember back then you couldn't like run to the bank on a Sunday. It was like, we'll be back on a Monday.
Yeah.
So we're up by Bradley Airport and he looks at the truck and it's a Sunday. He goes, I got to have it. So he goes, here's like $2,000. I'll be up tomorrow with the cash. And then we get up there and the guy's like, sorry, gave him the deposit back. He goes, I sold it. The guy offered me 500 more. My father was like, are you? So it was this, he had this every time he wanted that 52, 54 Ford, couldn't have it. The same thing with the Model A. But I want like the milk trucks and the bread trucks. I wanted one. And there was one that, I don't know if you remember, they had that salvage yard in Colchester and out by 85.
Oh, yeah. I know exactly. Yep.
I used to go there as a kid and just like dream. Even though everything was rotten, I was like, everything, like there's Hemi Cudas that are just rotten and there's everything you could think of.
And they're all gone now.
Yeah, well, so that was the story. So this guy that I know, not really a great guy, he ended up talking to this guy and convincing him we're gonna scrap all these vehicles, right? So I went up there and I said, I want that truck. He told me, oh, like $1,500. I'm like, gotta have it. And then all of a sudden he's like kind of not, everything's like fell off. And then it turns out that he convinced the guy to scrap all the vehicles. They scrapped the vehicles, and then that guy took the money, and I guess never paid the guy who owned the junkyard. So it was like
and then he passed away.
yeah, he passed away. Like, yeah, it was a horrible story. This guy's just a horrible person. But I remember, because I saw it was like literally this time of the year when I went there to look at it, and the leaves are down on the trees, and I'm like, I got to have this. And then as soon as I see it, I'm like, all right, I got these rims going on an air ride. This is new, the shop truck, And then all of a sudden you don't get it.
I know where there is one.
Do you really?
Yeah.
Oh, you have to tell me about
far.
that. Like, don't tell us now. That's my next project. I have to. Although my customers are probably like, no, finish mine first.
Yeah.
Because you never can build your own stuff. Oh man, so that's funny. Well, it's actually when you said that was sentimental because my father growing up had a window cleaning business and he's always by box trucks and I help him out. The same thing. So we go and you sit down. You make me sit on this little bucket, and him and my mom will be up front, and then we go and we wash windows and stuff like that. So when you said that, I'm like, oh no, you could totally see that poor guy, with his kid, with his father and stuff like that. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Really
Yeah.
neat.
Yeah.
And you got some neat stuff here. Flatheads. You're selling parts too.
Don't do too much in parts. I have a Hemi, a 231.
Oh, nice.
Red Ram.
Yeah.
That I'm selling for a lady.
Well, like a late 60s.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep. Yeah. It was actually, I'm trying to think of the name, but it was it was a replacement engine, Mohawk or something like that, I think. Because I think there's a picture of an Indian on it.
Yeah, on the side of the block. Yeah. Yep. Some of that stuff is so neat. We did a Pontiac, and it had a Pontiac, Indian head on the side of it, and actually it was for DeBase Brothers in Wallingford, and they're like, they wanted, which they did. They pulled it out and put like a small block in there. I'm like, no. I'm like all about like cutting them. I'm not the purist. I like the hot rod version, but I'm like, that Moda flathead was so cool with that Pontiac head on it. I don't care that it had 6 horsepower and didn't run, but they yanked it out. I don't know what they did with the motor.
Yeah.
You got a double A, it looks like here. Cutlass.
Yep. Yeah, the double A and the double B that's another neat story. The oldest farm in, I think it might be Connecticut, was incorporated in I think he said it was like 1785 or something like that. Incorporated.
Yeah.
And
Like
obviously
a legitimate,
people,
yeah. People were
had
farming
farms
before, otherwise-
that.
Yeah.
But
We did eat.
it actually legally incorporated, if not the oldest, one of the oldest, and definitely the oldest in Meriden. And the old foundation is still there. The fellow who's selling them is close to 80 years old. He remembers, both of those trucks were bought brand new and were the first mechanized pieces of equipment
On the farm.
And,
Can you imagine having that
motorized,
history in your
I should say,
head?
motorized,
Remember that?
yeah.
That's insane.
And he drove both of them, the dump body and the flatbed, the rack body type.
Yep.
17-foot bed. I mean, massive.
Yeah, huge. Yeah.
And that was the Hayen truck. So he and his girlfriend back in the day, who became his wife and then became his ex-wife, she would drive it, and he would, drive along and he'd be
bail it off,
out
yeah.
and pull all the hay in and stuff. And that one's still available, the 32B and 32 double B rack.
What are
body
those going
is
for, like
still-
14, 15 grand now or more?
That one could be had for about 8.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it runs and drives. It needs tires. I mean, it's got tube tires and.
And this is a dually,
split.
yeah.
Yep, that's a dually. The dump body we sold to a fellow up in New York just a couple months ago.
Do you ever run into Hot Rod Steve down in North Haven?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so he has a ton of these things.
Yeah, actually, he came up and looked at the dump body, and I'm selling a car for him, his Phaeton.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
The one he bought like 4 months or 6 months ago?
Yeah, the
Okay.
green and green.
Yeah.
Dark green, sort of apple green.
Yeah.
Trim, apple green tires and stuff.
Oh, nice. Yeah, he's been
we're selling that.
It's so funny because he drives me crazy. I love him. He's a good guy, but he's like,
I actually have to call him when I leave.
oh,
here.
there you go. Everything he sells is worth $1 million. And when you try to sell, no matter what you do work for him, it's not worth anything. You
Right.
know? Oh my
Yeah.
God. And
Yep.
he knows everything, but he's a good guy. He has a beautiful collection of cars. I think
Yeah.
I think he's up to, well, now it's probably over 60 cars, I bet you.
That's what he thinks.
With his new garage and stuff like
Yeah.
that. Yeah, it's
Yep.
crazy. That's crazy. Yeah, someday I'm gonna get one of these things. I gotta get them all. Do you know what's funny? I don't know how you teach the younger generation. Like, I think because us growing up around it, we remember it and talk to people who remembered it. the appreciation for some of these antique and classic cars, it sickens me
Mm-hmm.
like to see these valuable cars that are going for nothing now because there's a lot of the younger guys and girls who don't appreciate the value in them. And I look at them and they look at them as too simple and basic, but I look at like a glass fuel ball or an updraft carburetor as like, this is like someone really thought this out. They made a mechanical updraft carburetor,
Right.
and it's insane. So
The
people.
key, I think, and I've just had a discussion recently with a fellow who's, no one's buying, these cars in 10 years are going to be worthless
Yeah.
because no one's buying them.
Yeah.
Well, I have to disagree.
Me too, yeah.
I've got several nieces and nephews, and all the nephews are into cars. And, Derek, who you may have on here,
Yep.
he's I'm going to say he's probably in his late 30s. So, I mean, I'm almost 60. So that's,
The young ones,
anyone under 40 is a kid.
That's scary, right?
So that's, if you consider 30, 36 as the generation that doesn't like cars,
They do like them.
he's totally into it.
Nice.
And the way to do it is to bring them, take them with you, have them in the garage, male, female, doesn't matter. Just have them with you doing that stuff. Another friend that I do a lot of work with, I call him the fixer of lost souls. I'm the finder of lost souls. He's the fixer. And he has a nephew who is totally into old cars.
Oh, nice.
And because he would hang out with them, he moved south, but hanging out with his Uncle Jack.
He got the bug. He appreciates them. Yeah.
And so as a 17, 18-year-old kid, he wants an old car. That's what he wants.
Nice.
And so it's not dead.
Yeah, I don't see it. Yeah, I don't see it being dead myself either. Yeah.
Bring it back.
But I would like to bring it to a higher level, like more people do it. Because I know farmers now. I have plenty of friends who are still farmers on farm, and they have tractors. They love this stuff. It's the mechanics of it are great. But I see now, like we're running into a lot of the kids that you have kids, same thing, young men and women. When they come on and you hire them, they've been growing up around Hondas and Subarus and things like that. So they don't have that. And what's funny is, it was funny because we had Dan Miller who worked here. I remember as the transition went from carbureted mechanical to computerized, we would talk about it and we got to learn the computers now. And then the kids, that's all they know is the computer. So when you say you got to actually troubleshoot this without the computer, they don't get it. And it's this whole thing. And I'm like, I tell Lewis here, he's a great mechanic. He works with a lot of the newer vehicles and stuff like that. You got to work on the old ones. You'll appreciate it more. The simplicity of it is what I fell in love with. It's just neat, the brass era, all that stuff. So I do agree with you that there's going to be more people in this. I just would like to get even more to appreciate it.
And the market is like any market. It's going to fluctuate.
Yes.
2019, we're actually still, despite the fact that things have dropped a little bit, we're still better than we were in 2019.
Yeah, it's weird. It's just not changing. Like you think, oh man, the COVID bust is going to go, but I guess.
It dropped, and we're down. I'm going probably 25-30% from our, the max of 22.
But they were also inflated.
Right.
Yeah. That always just drive me crazy. The motorcycle business guys would be like, all of a sudden, all Orange County choppers on TV, and everybody's into motorcycles. So they go from this hole in the wall shop making $10,000 a year to making $1 million. Then the following year it goes back to normal. They're like, our margins are down 90%. You're like, no, they were just a fluke that went up high.
Yeah.
But I think with the car business, what's funny is you still can't get used vehicles for everyday drivers, and a lot of the new vehicles you can't get. So a lot of people are fixing up the older vehicles now too. And I love it. I love it. This is the best time. Yeah, all this. Actually, I want to look at your calendar. This is pretty cool. You caught my eye there. You got my favorite trucks on the front. I love older trucks. I've been doing the
calendar for maybe 10 years.
And this is all your photo shoots?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
They are cars that I've found, photographed, and in some instances sold as well. Like the blue Dodge on the cover.
Yep.
I was just driving by. I was out in New Milford, and I saw that sitting in a barn and thought, it's perfect. It's got a couple flat tires or whatever.
This looks like a catalog you would buy in a store, and you're like, great photos. Oh, Chevy Love Truck. Come on. You're killing me. I love those things.
That one's still available.
Is there? Yeah. Not much left to it. Well, how much do they want for that?
Well, we didn't even price it. It was just one of those, it was
around here?
It's in New Britain, and that is at a garage that had the longest held garage license in Connecticut. It
Really?
was 101 years.
Wow.
Yeah, in New
That's
Britain.
pretty awesome. Well, let me know how much they want for that, because I actually want that.
I can, I'll definitely look you
Yeah.
up.
And that you got an Impala there. Oh, geez, I can't let Rick see this. When he sees this, it was funny because Rick drives this old Volkswagen diesel, and Keon, just before you pulled in, he's like, "Rick, you gonna sell this to me?" And then he goes, "I'll give you like 2 Twinkies, a soda can, and this." And then Rick goes, "When I move to Tennessee, I'll let you buy it." It's funny because the Triumph and the MGs are getting so hard to get parts now because like Victoria British is gone, the Moss Motors and stuff like that.
Yeah,
It's
Moss
not,
bought them all out. so
Yeah,
it's now
yeah.
Moss.
yeah, but they don't have a lot of stuff anymore, especially electrical and stuff
Right.
like that.
Well, if you look in England, go to Moss British.
Yep.
I found stuff for my bug eye that was not listed here in the US. And with shipping from the UK, these inner fender areas of the bug eye, which is all integral, it was like $53. And
That's it.
and then shipping was all of $20 for, I think I ordered 4 different panels.
So I didn't even think about that because I always just assumed it's going to be $1 million to ship it.
And then it got here in 3 days. I don't know how the heck it got here so
Well, that's
quick.
impressive. I'll have to try
Maybe
that.
It might have been at Moss.
Oh,
US,
yeah. I've
but
got that, yeah.
they don't list it in their catalog. I had to go England for it.
Oh, that's funny. Now you deal with the bug eye guy down in Brantford? I just emailed him to see if
Yeah,
he
I've
wanted to
known
come
Dave
on.
for years.
Yeah.
I almost worked for him a couple times.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was just one of those in between the industry jobs, thinking maybe I want to get out of it. Would have been a great place to work, but at that time I was in need of insurance, and he wasn't able to
Not
offer
ready yet,
insurance.
yeah.
So it was,
Well, it's
but,
funny because that's what we were just going through today, and I'm like, insurance on every guy is like $2,000 a guy, and then the deductibles are still ridiculous. It's so hard right now.
Yeah.
I wanted to get him
ended
on.
up just doing it through my own business, and now,
Yeah.
now it's a deduction. It's
Yeah,
because I'm supplying.
You still gotta
and
pay
my
it,
wife's
though.
my employee. She's my bookkeeper and stuff. So
Oh, nice.
So
Yeah, it was funny. I don't know because Dave was trying when he came in here. I don't even know my time. See, ever since COVID, I don't know when anything happened. It's like there was like a 2-year blur or whatever.
Right, yeah.
But I think it was during COVID he came in and we were talking because we used to do a lot of the kit cars and the Cobra kit cars and stuff. And he was telling me he wanted to take the bug eyes and basically make them into a turnkey car you could purchase for, I think he was trying to do them for like 80 to 100,000 area, which I thought was kind of tough because I'm like, well, you kind of jump into the Cobra market at that point for a nice Cobra, but you're never going to get the idiosyncrasies, whatever you call, of the bug eye. I mean, it's just they're their own beast, like a cute little car. So I never knew how he made out with that.
I know he's doing turnkey electric, but he's only done like 3 of them that I know of.
I got to get him on here because it's a very interesting thing.
Yeah.
I'm going to call this Rick's calendar because now you got the Willys. He had we joke around because Rick, who works there, he was been doing a Willys pickup for I think it was 19 years, and it's just
that one's local too.
Is it?
Yeah.
I always say
you've probably driven by it. You may not have seen it.
Oh, really? It's right around here. Oh, no shit. Oh, that's funny. Oh, yeah. The house looks actually, and I probably did because those flowers and stuff. But yeah, I always tell people people don't understand how hard it is to restore a vehicle when you're working a full-time job, living a life, going through all that stuff. And Rick for 19 years did it, and last year was awesome because he got to bring it in here, paint it, and get it to the next step. And he just told me 2 days ago that he's doing the wiring and he's almost done with it, which is exciting. I think his granddaughter wants it. And he's like, nah. Not the one he's giving you. I love New England. When you look at these pictures, I mean, I'll do a B-roll of these things, but living here is just awesome. With the leaves and everything. Actually, it's funny because one of my friends, Kai, which I call my friend, even we barely even get to see each other anymore, but he getting the creeps taken off. So he was driving by and he's like you, always looking, and he saw the taillights of like a 64 Impala in like these big pine trees just sitting out there. And so he went over and talked to the guy, and there was some I'll probably bastardize the story, but it's something about the poor guy bought it new for his daughter. I think she passed away, brand new, and just sat there forever. And so they're like, whatever he paid, it was like almost nothing. The guy was just...
Was it brown?
I think it was black or gray. Honestly, I have nightmares about this car, so it could have been hot pink because the story was they lost the keys, but you had to get in, And Kai was, as I'm, looking in the engine, he's telling me the whole story because he got it back to his house. He's like, so he had to like climb in through the back or something like that to get to it and to unlock everything, and then realize it was infested with snakes. So as I'm looking at it, he's telling me a little snake comes out of the hood, and I'm like, so now I literally, I gotta tell, I never even told him that. I saw him at Stafford last year. I didn't even tell him, but I literally have had nightmares about that car.
Right.
But he got it for a really good price and stuff like that. Obviously, here's your Mercedes, an '88 Mercedes-Benz 560 SL SEL. It's funny.
That was another local one too. Again,
You
just
don't.
down the
I
street.
feel so old because I don't expect to see that car as a classic car in the woods.
Right.
You
Yeah.
know, it's like
Yeah.
I remember everything. Those I remember new and being really nice. This is a beautiful catalog. You did a great job on this one.
Thank you.
One. What is
It's
that?
it's a
Valiant?
63 Valiant.
It is okay.
Yeah, 62, 63 Valiant.
Oh, that's why you had the Valiantly.
Yep.
Valiantly try. Okay, I get it. Yeah.
Yeah, I always play with words.
And it was a convertible.
No,
There's just no roof on it.
no. The guy was an old farmer, and when the car started crapping out a little bit, what he did is he cut the roof off, pulled the trunk out, and then just welded in a bunch of metal and turned it into a yard truck. Well,
Really? Like
a farm
utility-
truck. So
Oh, that's
just
cool.
load
Yeah.
stuff in, logging and stuff like that, and
So that you just
So
took a
it-
picture just because it's a beautiful picture, not like he's selling it.
we're talking probably 8 years ago when I actually photographed that one, and he had a couple of other cars that he wanted to sell, and he in essence he wanted to get rid of everything, but no one's going to
Yeah,
pay
sorry, yeah.
any money for what was done to it.
Yeah.
It
you needed
had
the
one
front
seat
end.
in it and stuff, and every part on it was wasted.
Are you still finding with your journeys, because like growing up, like especially in Haddam and stuff like that, you would always find these people, the old farmers, old people that would have all these vehicles in the woods and stuff like that. Do you still find that, or is it pretty much dried up?
They're still out there.
Yeah, they're still out there.
And this wasn't really a farmer, but I joke around about the fact that I went to Egypt to sell a bunch of cars. It was actually a town called Cairo.
Oh, okay.
And I was contacted by the widow's son, who saw an ad in one of my magazines, not one of my magazines, in a magazine I advertise in. And he was saying, my mom doesn't want any of the local car people to help out because she doesn't trust them.
Yeah.
They're,
Yeah. Good reasoning.
he passed away, and she said, and all of a sudden, all these guys come out of the woodwork and are saying, "Oh, well, that's actually my car that he was storing for me." And this,
People are
and this,
horrible,
and this,
aren't they?
and oh, that Hemi that's in the garage, that's mine. And don't trust anyone that calls you from the other car club because they're, and then the phone call from the other car club says, "Don't trust anyone." So she said, "I don't want anyone around here helping out." I went up there, and he had like 22 cars. A lot of Mopar, older Mopar stuff with the Hemis, DeSotos and stuff like that. He had a 5-window 32 Bonneville's setup, Bonneville coupe.
Yep.
And then he had a 32 street rod with wide tires, sort of pro street, more like pro touring, all sorts of stuff. Model A pickups and you name it. I mean, there was a custom 66 Buick lowered and with airbags and everything that he was restoring. So it was all
around here?
No, it was in Cairo.
Oh, Cairo.
Cairo, New York.
Oh, New York. Okay. Yeah.
And the unfortunately, I went up there for a week, several weekends, and my vehicle, one of my vehicles, has Auto Archeologist on it. And I was staying in town, and people, it's a small town, and word got around. And so I'm up there, and they were thinking, I was something like chasing classic cars. And so they're up there, and people are driving by the house while I'm taking pictures, and they're videotaping and taking pictures of me taking pictures. And
So instant celebrity.
And, this lady didn't want a lot of hoopla. And so I got them posted, and she wanted them sold. I mean, that's why you hire me, right? Yeah. In order to sell a car, you can't just put it in one place. You have to put it out there. And I literally, all of the cars I post go everywhere from, I don't use Facebook Marketplace. Sorry,
Yeah.
Facebook.
Zuckerberg.
But, no. But I'll use Craigslist all the way up to, all of the, I'll even, I've got a McLaren that I'm selling, and that's in the DuPont registry.
Nice.
So, and everything in between. So I post these vehicles out there, and we got 6 of them sold pretty quickly. And then she got a phone call from someone in one of the clubs who saw one of the vehicles listed in Hemmings. I mean, you're selling old cars.
Yeah,
You
you
sell
go to
them in
Hemmings. Yeah.
And calls up, and he's all getting in her face about this car that's actually a really nice 32 pickup street rod, flat head, but with all the period correct,
Very dated,
hop up parts and stuff. Awesome truck. And she got totally bent out of shape and called me up and said, I don't want you selling anything, just take everything down. I said, what happened? What's going on? Well, someone called me up and said they saw the car, the red truck for sale. I said, well, of course they did.
Yeah, you asked me to sell it.
Right.
Yeah.
I can't
Kind of
sell
your
them
job.
without letting the world know that they're out there. I don't know what, just take them down, and I'll pay you for your time. And, I don't know what I'm going to do, but so.
So you just told them that was it?
Yeah, I pulled all the
Oh, wow.
ads. I mean, I still have everything.
So you think that person was claiming that it was one of their vehicles and they weren't supposed to sell it, or?
She didn't say. She just said that this person called up and wanted to know why, it's being sold by this other person, and we can do all this, and just started getting on her case.
It's amazing how much
about,
that happens so much.
But there was probably $500,000 worth of cars, and then he was into automobilia too. I mean, funny, this guy would go down to Carlisle every year, and he would buy cars and stuff like that. He also became friends with a bunch of the Amish folks who do the barns and garages.
Yeah.
And what he would do, his wife would go, she was a nurse, and she'd leave at Friday for a double. Friday night, head out, or Saturday morning, whatever it was, she'd head out to work a double shift. They were in town, and he would, he'd call him up knowing that, hey, my wife in 2 weeks is working a double. I need another barn. And he had 12 acres and a lot of woods. So they would come in and build a barn overnight. Boom, that day.
They're pretty amazing workers.
30 of them. It's like, boom, 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 done. Leave. And then he'd bring his car in the new car that he bought that he wasn't supposed to buy, right? And tuck it into a garage that he wasn't supposed to build.
Oh, excellent.
And there were cars that she did not know he had tucked into barns, because he would build a barn and it was up in the woods. She, 10 acres, that's far back.
And then, you're not going to walk out there and
see it. She couldn't see it from I'm going out to work, okay, and she didn't even know that some of these barns were out there.
It's so funny how it's the car business cracks me up, because the husband-wife relationship is hilarious. We have a customer, and he came in one time and he's like, Eddie, you know what it is? He goes, you could buy anything you want as long as you spend the same money on your wife as you spend as yourself, right? Yeah. So I'm like, okay. So I went out and bought a new Harley, and I said, bought my wife for bringing the same amount of money as the Harley, figuring we're doing good. So then he comes in, and he's supposed to come in on a Friday and drop off, I want probably somewhere around 20 grand, right? So he comes in on a Thursday with $19,700 and says, I'll be back tomorrow with my wife. When I come in, it's $300. And you didn't tell me that part. It's like, oh, what'd you do? Well, we did all the metal work, the body work. We paid your car. How much? $300.
300, yeah.
He goes, don't worry, honey. I'll get you a purse tonight. That's crazy.
My wife said, because all of our cars have names. We've got Brigitte, we've got the Big Kitty, Amelia, Iris, Sexy Exy. Everyone has a name.
And you remember them all.
And the Black Rover is just Rover. And so she said when we first met, if your girlfriends have 4 wheels and an engine, you can have as many girlfriends as you want.
That's a good wife. Yeah.
And 2 of them are hers. I was the Mercedes. I was selling a Jaguar for a guy, and he said, I want to sell the Mercedes as well. I said, okay. So we had them both listed. he was moving. We get the Jag sold, and he says, your commission's, it's 10%, it's $800 on the Jag. I just need to get rid of the Mercedes. It didn't run, but overall, no rust, solid 280 SL Euro import.
So the bumpers and everything.
Yeah, the nice small bumpers, no cats.
Yeah.
You know, 6-cylinder, the dual overhead.
Yeah, those
cam
things ran
6-cylinder.
well. Yeah.
Yeah, and more horse and torque than the 380 and 450 SLs because they were all, strangled with U.S.
emission
emissions
stuff,
credits.
yeah.
So I said, well, I got to check. I'll give you, take the car instead of the commission if that works for you. And we were asking $1,500 for the car. So I got to check with the big boss. So I called my wife up. Hey, my lady, what do you think? She goes, the baby blue one? I said, yeah. She goes, with those really thin bumpers?
You got the perfect
That's
wife.
the one. She goes, oh my God, yes, take that deal. And so, yeah, sure enough, my wife and I went up there and dropped the battery in it, turned the key, and it started.
Wow.
And so I said, we're not shutting it off. We'll drive it back to the garage. Slapped one of the plates on it. She drove the Land Cruiser and went back, and it needed a little work, did some brake work, and found out that the issue that the guy was having, and the reason he parked it, was the fuel pump relay was just shorting, well, not shorting out, but
Wasn't engaging.
just temperamental.
Yep.
It would work, and he'd start it, go for a drive, shut it off, come back out, and the car wouldn't start. Well, if he just turned it enough, it would have kicked. Fuel pump would have kicked in. He would have started and he'd driven home. But what he would do is he'd get it towed, get it home, off the truck, and then try it, and it would start.
Oh, that's funny.
So
That's the ones you want to find.
yeah, so I pull it down. It's loaded with a mouse nest. Clean it all up. Took the back then. It's an '85 SL, so it's a 107 series Mercedes. The solenoids and stuff are take them all apart.
Yeah, everything's workable. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not. I guess solid state back then is what it was. Now it's all digital. You can't do that.
You can't do anything.
So you take it apart. I cleaned it up with some emery and a little bit of dielectric grease and put it back together, and it lasted 2 more years. And I did some brakes.
It's
and
funny
that was
with the new parts. They tell you, "Oh, it's great now. You don't have to do that. You buy the new parts and put them in."
Right.
But all the new parts are junk, so you got to keep replacing your blades. Better off knowing what you're doing and fixing those things.
Yeah, a buddy of mine had to pull a gas tank out of a newer XK8 Jaguar.
Yep.
Finds it's the fuel pump. Places the fuel pump, puts everything back in, turns the key, hears it humming. Okay, car still won't start. What the heck? Tracing all sorts of stuff. Still, it's running, but what the? It was wired backwards.
Oh, really?
Factory unit, brand new, wired backwards.
It's amazing. Like, what's going on out there? Like, there's no quality control. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's so crazy.
And it was one of those things where a friend of ours in our Jaguar club, who's just one of those electronic gurus,
Yep.
said, let's try this. And he just swapped the leads and it shot fuel and it's wired backwards.
It's funny. I love the Jaguar. I remember my uncle was a Jaguar guy up in Boston, and I remember when we were kids up there, his car broke down, and he's like, I'll call a tow truck. And Jaguar's like, no, we'll send someone. So they would send an enclosed trailer. Mm-hmm. And the driver's like, yes, we send enclosed trailers because no one's going to see a Jaguar broken down. And I thought that was the coolest thing. And I go, I've never seen a Jaguar broken down on the side of the road.
Well, I've been
in a
towed
few.
home twice with ours.
Yeah.
One was my fault. I put the front brakes, did the front brakes, and the brakes are safety wired. Now you don't see that often, and I just put a little Loctite on it and put it on there. I didn't safety wire it,
And it came right off.
and I didn't even know what it was. But I was driving down the road and hit the brakes, and it locked up because one bolt had come out, and it because of the.
It's amazing how
way it
fast it
returns.
happens too. It's a couple miles. Yeah.
I mean, it was probably 2-3 months, but it wasn't a lot of miles because it's it's one of our fun cars, so it's maybe 1,000 miles a year put on it.
It's funny. I remember when we were kids, I hired this kid. It's like 30 years ago. He put the acorn nuts on backwards. half a mile. That's about it.
Yeah.
All the studs shear off. Like seriously, it's beveled on this side. It's like
Right.
holy cow. Oh, it's so funny.
Yeah, so that's it's an '88 Jaguar Vandenplas, so it's got the fold down picnic trays and
Oh,
place for
nice.
your wine bottle.
They had so many cool little details back then.
Little lights. It's separate bucket seats. I mean, if you what's the Aston Martin? That's the 4-door Aston. I'm trying to not a Vanquish.
No.
Anyways, it's the 4-door Aston Martin sedan.
Yep.
And the back seats are bucket seats, just like the front seats.
Oh, yeah.
And back in 1988, this Jag, the Vandenplas, was similar. It has individual bucket seats in the back.
It's a newer Aston Martin? Or
No, 1988.
No, the one, the 4-door one?
I
don't know why.
I even
I gotta look
sold the
this up.
damn thing. I should remember. I think it's like it was a 2012, maybe, or maybe a little bit earlier.
I love the Aston Martins. That's like literally my favorite car. They're not super fast. Well, I'll tell you, the one with that, with a Mercedes AMG motor in it, it's fast.
Yeah,
You
this
know,
is a 12-cylinder supercharged.
Oh, yeah, so that's a little bit of power to it.
Yeah.
Do you know what's funny? Speaking of Aston Martins, one of the guys I know in town here, he has, I didn't pull it up. I saw he was driving his son's car and he has a Aston Martin. And I go, is that a Jaguar? And he goes, no, it's an Aston Martin. Yeah, and you know Bob Macheski and Derek in town?
No.
So anyway, so I tell him, and he's like, and Bob's like, loves the car. And he's like, I'll probably send it. He's like, well, let me tell you, it does look like a Jaguar. He goes, I'm glad you said that because I guess that one year they hired a designer from Jaguar at Aston Martin.
It was Ian Cullum. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And he designed both. So.
Yeah, it was awesome because I'm like, it looked like an Aston Martin, but with all the little chrome and neat things on it from a Jaguar. And it was just so funny that I'm like, it looks like a Jaguar, but it looks like an Aston Martin. He goes, it is. I thought that was really cool.
Yeah.
Neat car. He was right down the street with that thing. I loved it. Real neat. It was actually funny because his father, Bob, he loves like the Ferrari, specific Ferrari. It's like his car. He had one. He just loves it. And one of my good friends who's going to be on here soon, sorry, Tommy, he bought this Ferrari. And Tommy is Tommy. He just doesn't care. Does whatever he wants to it. And so he went and he came up to the shop and he's always like, Barrett. He goes, I want this to look like one of those stripped down race Ferraris. So I went to Home Depot. I bought the tin and self-tapped it through all the floor. And so then he goes, I saw this thing on Jegs where if they see your car with a sticker on it, you get free stuff. So he put this Jeg sticker on it. And he goes, I saw this hood scoop at Pep Boy. So I screwed it onto the back of it, right? So he just does whatever he wants. And meanwhile, this is like Bob's dream car. And he's like, are you kidding me? You just ruined this car. And Tommy just doesn't care. Yeah, just whatever he wants to it. This is was a beautiful Ferrari. Oh, it's so funny. What else you got for new sales there?
Some of the newer stuff, well, not new cars, but some of the cars current stuff. I've got a totally restored 96 ERA Cobra.
Okay.
1996 was when it was built. 2 owners, and about 2-3 years ago, the engine went on it. He brought it in, pulled the engine, and rebuilt the engine.
Was it like 327 or 427? Or?
This one's a 428. And
428, okay, nice.
It's actually modeled after one of the 100 427 Cobras that actually had 428s. A lot of people don't realize that, but they had an engine shortage when Carroll Shelby was building them, and they said, we'll give you the 428s instead. And Shelby being Shelby, I don't give a rat's.
Whatever runs.
Looks similar, so throw it in there. And so 100 of the original Cobras had 428s. This one was built to mimic one of those. So it's British Racing Green metallic with the cream colored stripes, which I think they made 46 in that layout.
Yep.
And with the 428. And when the engine was out, you see it every day here. One thing leads to another.
Always, yeah.
And, well, I'm going to fix this. Well, I might as well. And the next thing you know,
full restoration.
Yeah. It was a beautiful car to begin with. And it got repainted. I think the only thing original to the original car are the seats. They were beautiful. So he didn't reupholster the seats. But almost everything else, new carpets, new brakes, the transmission was gone through. Everything on this car is new. He went with new wheels and tires, and so that car is beautiful. Another very rare car that I have is a 69 W31. A lot of people don't even know what the W31 is, but it had the ramrod intake under the bumpers that came into a special 350. It was only built for the W31. Puts out 330 horse, 350 pound of torque. It looks like a 442, so to speak, but it's a W31.
Is that the one you have here, the silver or the gold? Silver
No,
one?
it's black and
okay.
white. Yep. So, no, that's part of the two trucks,
Yep.
the 30, the
Yeah,
Model A dump body and the Model
Yeah, I don't
D.
think it was a Cutlass though or something. Yeah.
That Cutlass was his parents'. They bought it brand new. They traded in a 67 Mustang Fastback with a 390
It's amazing.
for that 442, for an 87 442.
That happens
But,
a lot.
Back then in 1980, it wasn't.
Oh, they did it
Mustang.
back then when
they traded it in for that car.
We have that.
Bought it brand new.
We had a customer with this. He had a 67 Camaro that was beautiful, and he traded it for a 2000 Camaro.
Yeah.
And I was like, what? Because it's just, to me, I'm like, but he
Yeah.
goes, when he was in high school, that was the car and he wanted it. So I was like, holy cow.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
And so that 442 is 60,000 miles, all original, one owner car.
Wow.
It sat in a garage since
Those things right now,
2007.
they're astronomical, some of those G bodies, what they're going for.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, especially the guys down south are buying them so much that they're getting hard to get and they're paying
Yeah.
crazy money.
It's got the 307, but it's a V8. Runs and drives great.
Is this a Chevelle, the black one with the next to the bread truck?
Black and white stripes.
No, it's just straight black. It looks like a 66. But it has like, I don't know if it's just me. It looks like it has like a weird vent on the rear quarter panel.
Oh no, that's the very first car that I sold
Oh, really?
ever. A 66 Caprice.
Oh, that's what that is, a Caprice.
Yep.
Does it have vents on the rear quarter panels?
I don't think so.
It must just be, maybe it's just a
a
reflection of the
reflection,
light.
yeah.
Yeah. I need thicker glasses, evidently.
But yeah, that was a house. It's over in Meriden.
And that was a 66?
66. Yeah.
It's weird because the hoods, like the Chevelles, and they had was it 64 had a different hood than 65 and 66? Yeah, all three of them have different hood sizes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's funny.
I knocked on the door, and the lady answered the door. Said, "Oh, that's my son's car. He and his wife were building it. I'm not sure what he wants. I'll give him your name, because I didn't even have cards. I wasn't Auto
winging it.
Archaeologist.
Yeah,
I was
yeah.
just literally.
It's kind of like our podcast,
you know,
just wing it.
I just, hey, I'm Dave, and I saw your car. What can you tell me about it? And she said, it's like, if he's interested in selling it, let me know. And a couple weeks later, I get a phone call, and he says, I'd like to sell it. And he told me the whole story about how he bought it. It was yellow, needed some work. He and his wife were really into cars and would go cruising and stuff like that. They got the car pretty much built. They still had some interior stuff to do. Did all the quarters on it, repainted it. It had a very strong 327 under the hood. And then his wife was diagnosed with cancer. And a year later, she died from cancer. That's horrible. And he had absolutely no interest in that car. Where he backed it into his mom's driveway and walked away from it. And that's like where it sat for several years. I put a battery in it, got it fired up. I think he did some of the stuff to get it back running. I went through it and cleaned it all, detailed it, and I don't even remember how much we sold it for, but we sold it, someone down south. I had it advertised in a magazine, and
done and gone.
That was, so
Nice.
that was the very first one that I photographed and first one that I sold.
Oh, that's
that
exciting,
car.
huh?
So
that's some history there. That is the Auto Archaeologist beginning.
Yep, exactly.
You got a little Woody here.
Yep.
Well, so what are the ERA Cobras going for now? I've been so out of touch with those guys.
A good one that, you know, has 10,000 miles on it. They're selling close to 80.
So they're still right up around there.
Yeah, and we're asking 100 for that one.
Because it's such a rare
Yeah,
berry. Yeah.
it matches, you know, it's a true replica of a low production number Cobra. So
Those guys, they always
everything's new.
they won a lot of awards with their originality and duplicating
Yes.
stuff.
Yeah.
Did you know those guys up there? Are they still around or?
As a matter of fact, I haven't seen them in a long time. Another story, and you know, we could sit here for hours.
I know we're car guys.
You're gonna have fun editing this.
Yeah, right. Thanks.
So I was looking for a project. I was working my day job up in Hartford, and out in the backyard, I see an old Jag, XJ6, and said to the owner of the house, I said, "What's up with your Jag?" And he said, "Oh, it's not mine. It's my neighbor's." And I said, "Looks like it's in your yard." Yeah, you know, she's 80 years old. She's a really, really great lady. You know, she'll come over, she'll just bake stuff and come over. "Hi, here, Quinn, you have some muffins." And
Nice,
"Oh,
yeah.
cool," you know, so I don't give her a I don't care if it's back there. So I said, you know, I wonder if she wants to get rid of it. Well, it used to belong to her husband, and like 5 years ago, at like 75 years old, he left her. Like, you know, they've been married for 25 years or something. I don't know. So I go and I knock on her door and said, you know, "Quentin tells me you're looking to get rid of the Jag." She goes, "Why, you want it?" I said, "Yeah, well, how much do you want?" She goes, "Get it the F out of here."
Yeah, okay, get over it.
"Really?" "I got the paperwork right now. I'll sign it over to you right now." Okay.
Wow.
That weekend I had, you know, AAA go up there, and AAA says, "Have a plate?" "Yeah, it's got a plate." And
Poor
it did.
AAA,
It had the plate from like when it was
1970,
last
yeah.
registered.
Yeah.
You know. And so he shows up. He says, "That doesn't look like it's been on the road anytime lately."
In the
"No,
woods,
it
yeah.
hasn't." You know. And he's like, "I'm not really supposed to do that." I said, "Well, what's your favorite sandwich?" "What? What's your favorite sandwich?" "Roast beef and Swiss." "Okay." You know.
They'll be waiting for you.
You know, you're getting paid. So anyway, so do they really need to know? No. "Okay, this is where it's going." "Okay, I'll see you there."
Nice.
Grabbed the sandwich, brought it to him. Nice big, you know, sandwich from Lino's
Yeah.
and stuff. And he was, you know, happy as a clam. And so drop it off and realized it needed way too much work. So, okay, start selling parts. And someone tells me, "Oh yeah, the guys at ERA, they'll pay like $500 cash for, you know, one of the rear ends." Because
Oh,
that's what
the
they use.
Jaguar independent
Jaguar
rear ends,
yeah, the independent with the inboard brakes and stuff. "Oh, cool." Pull that out, throw it in the Land Cruiser, drive it up there. "Oh yeah, sure. Here you go. Here's your $500. Thank you." Head down to see my dad. As I pull into his driveway, I see a sign on a tree that says "Jag for sale." Huh. Make a quick phone call, and back, you know, cell phones were brand new at that point. We're probably talking, well, maybe they weren't brand new, but it was like an old Nokia.
Yeah, it'll
you
flip
know?
phone, yeah.
And so I call the guy up. He says, "Where are you?" I says, "I'm on your front lawn, looking at your sign." He says, "Oh, I'm inside. You know, I'll show you the car." So he rolls up the garage door, and here's this beautiful alpine green Jag XJ40 Vandenplas. It's got a car cover sort of half over it and a tarp and pool toys and stuff like that. I said, "Well, what's up with the car?" He said, "Well, I bought it from the original owner. She bought it from Jaguar Darien, and she lived in Milford, and I guess she moved from Milford to Rhode Island, and then as she was getting older, she moved up to New Hampshire. She lives like 3 doors down from my brother." So I was up there. Back then, he said, I was the lead singer of a punk rock band. He said, so I thought, what better way to show up to gigs?
Yeah,
than,
Jaguar.
you know, the big British luxury,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Come
yeah.
rolling in and pull my guitars, you know. I was going to have a special cabinet made in the trunk for my guitars, and, you know, and that would be awesome. He said, I'm driving it home. There was something really weird with the brakes. And, you know, I can build a guitar, but I don't know crap about cars, especially like this kind of
Yeah, they're
British,
tough,
you
yeah.
know. And so I brought it to a dealership, and they told me it was going to be $4,000 to fix it. He's like, and my girlfriend at the time said,
Yeah.
We're living together. We're
Prioritize.
sharing bills, and no, you just paid $3,000 for the car. You're not spending more to fix it. Figure it out yourself. So, I didn't know what the heck I was doing, and then the doors stopped opening, and so I had to leave the window down so I could reach in, and so I started taking the interior apart, and I'll come out here and start it every now and then, but I need to sell it, wife. Now she's my wife. It's 5-6 years, and she's like, I've got my new car. I want it in the garage, so you got to get rid of it. So how much you asking? Really just any reasonable offer. Okay, reasonable to me. It's not reasonable to you. It's not reasonable to them. I mean,
over 1,000 or under 1,000? What's reasonable?
I know you paid $3,000, but you told me that that it needs $4,000 worth of brake work and the interior's apart.
Worst salesperson ever.
So, that's what I said. You're not doing a good job of selling it here. And but I got $500 cash in my pocket. I pull it out. It's literally 5 $100 bills. I'll give it to you right now. And he says, whether it's reasonable or not doesn't matter, because I have a wife inside who said this car needs to go. And if she found out that someone was here waving $500 bills in my face, I'd be dead or divorced. Yeah. So, it doesn't end well. So there you go. Thank you very much. 20 minutes later, I had a buddy who picked it up and drove it back to my garage, and I started into it. That was 18,000 miles and 16 years ago. And wow. A fuel pump went once, and that's the big kitty.
So this is the one you kept for yourself. That's excellent.
Yeah, that's the big kitty.
Nice,
and that's the license plate. It says Big Kitty.
Oh, that's awesome.
It beautiful, beautiful Alpine green color. Gets compliments all the time. Has won trophies and stuff. I know every single flaw on it, and wonder sometimes why I'm getting an award, because it's like, didn't you see that?
You're your own worst critic, yeah.
But real fun car. And the brake issue I mentioned earlier, that was one time that I had to have her towed home. And that's when I realized what it was. It's like, put a new bolt in, wired them, and then another time the car was all packed up. We were actually heading to Newport, the Audrain Museum and stuff out in Newport. Yeah. We're going out there for a weekend, and figured, let's take the Jag. And luckily, we pulled out of our driveway, head down Route 66, and it shut off. But I'm heading downhill. So I just put it in neutral, and I tried starting it, wouldn't start back up, glide all the way down into Home Depot parking lot, and I was this close to replacing it there in the parking lot. And I just didn't have enough of the tools. I needed a large, it was probably a 19 mil, and I didn't have a 19 mil open end with
stuff
me.
With the Jags,
yeah. And so I had to have it towed home, and half a mile towed home because it wouldn't fire back up, and it was just all it was the fuel pump. But
yeah, it happens when they're older.
Yeah, so
it's funny. Every story you say is the opposite of me. It cracks me up because every vehicle I have, I can't sell it until I'll go and I'll put it needs an alternator, it needs a carb, and I put every single thing into it. And I finally said, you know what, I'm done with this thing. I got to sell it, and then I sell it. And what's funny is I sold one car, then I sold another car to the same guy. I went to school with him, and this is years later. And so then I sold another one. And I'm like, Zach, I go, why is it you show up so fast every time I sell a car? He goes, well, I was actually going to tell you, next time you want to sell a car, don't list it. Just tell me. He goes, because I look for cars you're selling. He goes, the first car I bought from you, I gave it to my mother. She drove that thing for 8 years and never had to change a thing. And I'm like, what is it? Like, I have this bad luck where as soon as I walk away from it, the car's done. It's the opposite. It's crazy.
Yeah. So just a lot of fun,
Yeah.
I am living, I don't want to say I'm living my dream, but maybe I am, like you already mentioned, and I already know, I've got a great wife. She's a beautiful lady. She knows how to cook. So, I mean, she's a professor too. So she's teaching tonight. So tonight's my night to make sure everything's all set.
There you go. Yeah.
But have a great lady, great house. I just finished a couple of years ago. New garage. I was renting for years.
So yours wasn't the garage that collapsed, right? You know the garage. No. Okay. Because there was someone in Middletown I was talking to. I forgot who it was, and they had like a big collection of cars, like MGs and something like that, and it was a huge room.
Oh, that was Meriden.
Is that what
I
it
was
was?
over in Meriden. Yeah,
the whole thing
I know
collapsed.
him. Yeah, I know him pretty well. And it was a Quonset hut.
Yes, yeah, it
massive
was a Quonset, yep.
hut. Yeah, and that collapsed probably 5-6 years ago.
Yeah, I
now.
remember someone telling me. I just couldn't place
Know
who
him
it
very
was.
well.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's since rebuilt some new garages and stuff.
He's not the MG guy in Meriden, is he?
He's at least one MG guy in Meriden.
So I wonder if he's the one. So Bob Macheski, the guy I was telling you about with the Ferrari and the Jag, he was working with a guy he was friends with. That they had, I think it was a Quonset hut. It was like a rural area, a bunch of houses and stuff like that. And then he had like a garage and a garage behind his house, and they were restoring MGs and stuff in there. I wonder if it's the same guy.
This guy is just out of downtown, so it's not rural at all.
I think that, well, I said rural, but I don't mean rural. Yeah, there's a lot of houses there. I think it's the same guy, maybe. Like
Could
you go,
be.
as soon as you drive into downtown, you take a left, like you're heading towards Wallingford. It's like a couple streets down there.
Yeah.
Yeah, that has to be the same guy
Yes,
then.
in essence, behind the food bag.
Yes,
There used
okay.
to be a food bag,
Yeah,
but
yeah, so
in
it
that
is,
area.
Yeah. Okay, yeah. So that's yeah. There was like a gate in front of his house or something. Yeah, that has to be the same guy. So it was his garage that collapsed. Okay.
Yep.
I don't know why. That's weird because I would.
They were, all of them that were in that garage, the good ones were up in other garages on the property. And he's got a couple on the house that are deep. They look like a single car garage, but you can fit 3 cars in.
Yes, the
so
same
all
guy,
the good
yep.
drivers were up there. He had, I think, 1 driver in that, but the rest, I mean, I think he probably had 20 plus that were serviceable, either for parts or, someday cars
Yeah.
that, someday I'm going to get to that one,
Yeah,
get
yeah.
that one running and sell that. And someday I'll do that one. And,
Yeah.
he just hadn't gotten to him yet. But he still, the community sort of jumped in, and a lot of people went up, bought a lot of parts from him, and helped him get everything
that's
out of
nice.
there. So
Yeah, it's nice when people come together and help people
Yeah,
out.
exactly.
Oh, that's really cool. Yeah, so it must be. That's now I feel bad. It has to be the same guy. That's crazy. Yeah, I guess it's a small
very
world.
probably. But so aside from my great wife, and my beautiful garage that I have, 24 by 56 garage in the backyard.
Nice.
That's a dream for a lot of folks, and it was a dream for me to have that garage. And I get to sell and drive. Like 2 weeks ago, I'm blasting around Western Connecticut in a McLaren, just,
Like an older one, like a vintage one, or a newer one?
it's a 12C. It's a 2012. So
Nice.
not
Oh, nice.
really
That's not that
vintage.
old. Yeah.
So, and the same guy has a Pro Touring Nova, and actually Adam has it over at his place.
Yeah.
And so I'm selling that for him as well. And so to go from a McLaren that only has a little over 600 horse, but torque is 440.
Yeah, the
in it.
throaty, yeah.
So, but it doesn't. His Pro Touring car has 530 horse. That will light the tires up through 3rd gear.
Oh yeah.
And it's on video, from inside the car. But I'm rowing through the gears and lighting them all the way up, and it's a blast.
Yeah, they're fun cars.
I mean, I still have a day job, and I do that 40, 50 hours a week.
Well, it's probably
And then
nice though, because then you can enjoy it more. Like you don't have the pressure of going, I have to sell this, I have to do this.
Right.
You can
right.
enjoy it, and you're still comfortable and stuff,
Right,
and love.
yeah.
Sometimes that takes the passion out of it. Now
Right,
you can keep
right.
your passion.
Yep.
I'm sure.
And that's my planned retirement.
Yep.
And right now I've got over 30 cars on my site for sale, over $1 million worth of cars. So I have to say, I never thought that, I would be in that position. And it's not part-time, it's full-time.
Yeah.
But I didn't really think that, I'd have 3 or 4 cars on my site, all worth over $100,000.
Nice.
And then,
From just that one Chevelle.
yeah, yeah.
I gotta remember. I'm gonna ask Adam because he said he's coming on. I'm gonna ask him if he still has the same passion for the cars as when he started.
The cars, yes.
Yeah.
And I get to deal with people, the car people that I deal with, 99% of them are really cool, great people. And the lady in Cairo, she's a wonderful lady. She just
Probably got scared.
Yeah, exactly.
Nobody wants that pressure and have to deal with it. Like,
and so, she was a little, I wouldn't say mean, but a little short, a little terse, and just wanted things shut down. But that's, I've not really ever had any issues. And my wife says I should have a signed contract, and I said I do. It's right there.
Yeah, sometimes you got to keep old school. There's something a lot to be said with that. Sometimes the contracts just, I don't know. It's funny because we go through that a lot because a lot of people, when you restore a vehicle, they're dreamers.
Yeah.
And they want to do it, but they can't really afford it. And like we have this one customer, I love him, and I was like, he came in and he's like, how much is it going to take to fix the metalwork and buy? I said, you're probably going to be in the $50,000 range. I said, so let me give you some other people to go to that'll be cheaper. And I gave him a bunch of people that are good people that I know. And he went around there, but he came back. He goes, no, I really want you to do it. I know you care and you'll do it right for me. And then he made his second payment. And he goes, well, I was actually hoping you were exaggerating. And they're just everybody's just like
exaggerating. It might be 60.
Yeah, everybody's a dreamer. It's so crazy.
Yeah, and I could see, you being, this is a lot different. I mean, this is brick and mortar. With people's cars, you have to have a contract doing that kind of stuff.
Yeah, but that was again, is that what's tough is with the contracts, what ends up happening is it becomes black and white, cut and dry.
Yeah.
You stop paying, you have 30 days to make a payment, we take your car, then you ABA it, and you do that. And the hard part is that's what a smart businessman would do, and that's what most of my friends do of it. I'm not in it. I want to build your car, get it done. If you can't afford it, take it somewhere else. If you can, don't. But it's like to get in that contest where you're like, locking people in to take their cars because they can't pay. That's not what it's about for me. Calendar, I love this calendar. I think that's so cool.
Yeah, I've got them for sale. So.
Oh, nice. I'll put the B-roll in. I'm gonna show some of the cars that you sent me, and so the people that watch this on YouTube can see the pictures, and people that listen. Yeah. Sorry.
And I'll send you. I didn't send you the. I call it the monkey van.
Yep.
Because that's the one that it was just a teal green Chevy.
How long was that? Like 3 years ago or something? Or?
No, that was probably 5.
That long?
5 or 6. And a friend of mine who's an attorney here in town was selling an estate, and she said he's got 3 trucks that have to be sold. Went over and looked. They were in a run-down building in downtown Middletown, and there was 76, not a K, it was a C20 long bed that he used. The guy used to own vending machine business, cigarette machines.
Yeah,
and stuff.
yeah, old school.
Tons of those throughout the building too, and we sold a couple of those. And so he had the blue Chevy pickup truck, had a rack body in it, and he would use that for deliveries. It also had a lift on it, so he could roll things on and deliver them. That one, we sold that one pretty quick and easy. That was beautiful, beautiful condition. 30,000 miles on it, because all he used it for was driving in town, delivering machines. And then another vehicle that he had was a 36 Chevy rack body that had, the name of his business on the side of it. And he would occasionally use that for deliveries. It had a lift on it as well. And he had that truck early on when he first started. So that was one of his first trucks, and then he had it restored, but kept the lift and everything on, and occasionally would make deliveries with it. And then he had his service truck, which was the box truck, panel truck, and that's the one. I posted it, and 2 weeks after posting it, I got a call from Richard Rollins. Actually, I still have his number in my phone.
Great call.
Although he's not, as popular as he used to be. I guess I haven't seen the show really.
Well, what's funny is because his YouTube channel is actually killing it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's funny because since he got off Discovery, he went through it looked like a rough patch.
Yep.
And then I didn't watch them before. Their YouTube stuff I love watching because they have their new crew of guys are building cool stuff. They're actually, and they're good dudes. They're all car truck guys. So it's neat. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. So yeah, he called me up and he says, and the interesting thing that, what TV does to you, so to speak, his persona on TV is woo in your face, all the loud and stuff, right? And he calls me up and he's like, yeah, hi, I'm calling on the panel truck. I said, yeah. He says, this is Richard Rollins. I said, oh, cool. Gas Monkey? He goes, yeah, that's the same one. It's like, cool. What can I tell you about it?
And he was pretty chill, yeah.
And, absolutely. And just real down to earth and, talked about the truck and, I've got, I I want to do a truck. I'm seeing a lot of them, and I want to do, and that's a square one, you know, and most of them people are doing the round ones. I want to do a square, you know, and so I've got a whole plan and a whole idea for it. You know, I'll give you what you're asking. I don't care, just, you know,
Nice.
whatever it is.
No beating
he
you up.
says, you know, Nick, I think his name was, he'll call you and take care of all, you know, wiring the stuff, and
nice.
and you know, hey, feel free to call me anytime. You know, put me on your mailing list or whatever.
Yeah.
And so he's on my list.
Nice.
You know.
Oh,
and,
nice.
I haven't, you know, sold anything else to him, but
It's funny.
it
His
was a neat
celebrity
story,
status
you know?
his celebrity status is amazing to me because I don't know if you know Jay over at Vintage Motorsports down in
Old Saybrook.
no, not Motorcar Motorsports. He's down in like North Haven. He does the backdraft Cobras, like the
Actually, no, I don't know.
yeah, it's cool shot. I assume he's still there. Real cool cars and stuff like that. Neat stuff. Him and his brother do it. We were painting a lot of the Cobras for him. And what was funny is the first year Barrett Jackson came here to Connecticut, we did a bunch of cars for him, and he set up a really nice booth there. And when we went there, people were looking at it and stuff, but people really weren't. There's no big purchases. And then Richard Rowling walks right up to one, puts a sticker on the window. He's like, "This one's mine." And the crew of people that follow him, like, just like instantly bought all the cars. Like if he got one, I got to get one. So his value is pretty amazing.
Yep.
For you're like, I'm like going. If I didn't see it, I wouldn't believe it. Like I can't believe there are people literally follow him around and get all jittery. Although it was funny. We did a motorcycle show a long time when Orange County was really big.
Yep.
And I wish I videoed. I'd be rich because like the Tuttles that were there, and I think it was Paul Senior and his son and the kid Vinny, a guy Vinny at the time that were doing it, and they're doing like a signing, right? Mm-hmm. They walked out from behind the signing and walked right into the crowd of people and like kind of bumped one of the biker dudes here, and like big biker dude, you know, with all the leathers on, all that. He goes, "Oh my God, the Tuttle bumped into me." I'm like, I could not believe that like this big biker guy just melted over this celebrity. It cracks me up, but anyway, that's funny.
I think I had sold him the truck before one of the Barrett Jacksons here.
Yep.
And I have, well, you know, when you're in the business, you get connections and stuff. And
you meet people.
So we were on stage for all of the ones they did here, you know, down in Mohegan, and, you know, hanging out up on stage with Richard Rollins.
Oh,
you
nice.
know,
Yeah.
And, you know, knowing that, you know, we're still working on it and stuff. Can't say anything because, you know, it's going to be in a future show, but it's coming along and this, that, and the other thing.
You got a little behind the scenes knowledge.
And just, you know, again, up there on stage with him when the camera wasn't rolling, just mellow Texas.
Just a
dude,
normal guy.
You know?
It's well, you know, I'm amazed by people like that because have you ever heard Bob Backlund, the wrestler?
Oh yeah.
So I didn't. I used to, as a kid, we would watch wrestling stuff like that.
Yeah.
But I was doing a car show with him, and he was next, like in the booth next to me. Awesome dude. And he's just like, "Hey Eddie," you know, just like really nice and quiet, and you know, signing autographs. And I'm like, "Bob," I go, "You're so like just a nice guy." I go, "That's pretty impressive," you know. And then he goes, "Well, that's why, Ed, because right now you're talking to, you know, Bob Backlund." And then he goes, "And right now," and the veins pop out of his. He goes right into character. He goes, "You're talking to Mr. Bob," and he's like shaking. I'm like, it is just awesome how those guys are able to just turn it on.
Yeah.
You know, and I mean, it's got to be. It's an art to be that. You know, that's crazy.
Yeah.
All those guys. Yeah, that's crazy. So okay, we'll wrap it up.
I was gonna say, yeah.
Yeah. So please check out your website. It's autoarcheologist.com, right?
Yes.
Yes, perfect. And I'll put the
ARCHEO, archaeologist. That's a secondary way of spelling it, but it is still grammatically correct.
Okay.
And
it's
so
for all you haters.
Yeah. It's no ARCHA. It's ARCHEOLOGIST.
So I'll put that in the description too, and we'll put it on there so you guys can go to it and check them out. And like, I love you sending like your little letters and stuff like that. We get to read those and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And it's very cool. So check Dave out. This stuff is really cool. And if you're like a New England, I always feel bad for people who aren't in New England because I love it here. You know, I just, you know, with these, every picture, when you see these pictures on there with the trees in the background and it's like these barn finds and stuff like that. That's just great. So give Dave a call, check him out. And I really appreciate you coming on.